Here's my 5 quick questions to make 2025 the best year of your life. We're coming to the end of 2024. Tomorrow is the start of a new year. And we are deep in reflection of what's worked and what hasn't of our current year. And we're about to progress into the next. Now, a lot of pressure can come with going into the new year. And we've got to remember that it is just another day. However, it's an important day today that we can use this time to set up ourselves for success. And what we do is we make sure we look and reflect and we build that critical hope up for the new year. Looking at what are we appreciative for? What are we grateful for? What are the things that have worked? Where have we won? We may have had these big goals, but realistically, if we don't reflect on what's worked well, what are we going to take into the new year? Now, there's a couple of simple things that I want to go through, a couple of simple frameworks and questions, just so you can start the 2025 off to your best start. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Vaughn Littlejohns. I'm an educational leader and growth coach, and I'm going to take you through a series of frameworks that I've used personally in my life to basically skyrocket my career to become a deputy principal within only 5 years of education or leadership, as well as basically improving every aspect of my life, starting a business, making my first dollar online, to making my first couple of $1,000s online, to completing 2 degrees, including a master's. But regardless of all my achievements and accolades, it's about the process that we go through to reflect on what's worked well and what hasn't, and what are we taking forward. So if you follow along with me, I'm going to be reflecting on my year 2024, what's worked, what hasn't, and what am I going to take forward. But really the structures and the frameworks that I'm doing in that process. So my first questions, and I've just noted a few points down, is that first question is what's working well. That is where we need to start. We need to start from a positive base before we just come into that self-doubt, and we've got to focus on the wins of the year rather than that deficit model. Now, my focus for today and then going into next year is going to be around business. It's going to be around educational leadership in business. Now, I've just began and I am in that process of learning all things business, marketing, sales, conversions, all that kind of stuff, all the jargon. However, the core aim of that business is to impact, basically teach people how to teach. I've built some success. I've built success for many teams in my career so far. We've gotten amazing results for our students, and I'm basically just wanting to transfer those skills to others so they can just be set up for success without having to put the years of work and effort in to actually get the same results. So that is what I'm focusing on, the business as my reflection. So what's worked well? For 13 months, I invested nearly $10,000 into courses in learning how to market, create funnels, host communities, email marketing, all these things. I spent nearly $10,000 of my own income in just learning. Because the biggest thing when it comes to learning, and this is the first tip, is we are paying down our ignorance debt, as Alex Hormozi would say. If you want to earn $1 million and you're currently earning $100,000, well, your debt is $900,000. Your lack of knowledge is costing you $900,000 a year. And that's a simple way of looking at it, of we need to pay down that ignorance debt as quickly as possible. And how do we do it? We buy information, we buy education, and we surround ourselves with people who have already done what we want to achieve. And that is our first thing, that is what's worked well. I've basically jumped into programs, $4,500 masterminds. I've got $2,000 for executive coaching. I've got another one for business and another one for marketing. And at the end of the day, I've only made back a small fraction of that. But it got me to that point, because before that I hadn't made a single cent online. And I didn't know where to start. I had too much ideas of where to go, what to do. And there was this whole limiting belief of, I can't achieve that because I can't guarantee success. And that's the thing. So what's working well? Surrounding myself with those people, those people in regards to the ones that have those knowledge and skills. And then what that led to is really making my first step into that online space, creating content, launching a community for teachers, and then actually delivering coaching and basically educational content towards those people and getting amazing results. Now, it's small at the moment, but the feedback I've got is overwhelmingly positive. They are so excited, they're so ecstatic of where they've come from, of not having much infrastructure or connection or support, and then just coming into my world of, here, I've done this over the last 9 years of education, and I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to coach you through how to use it, and you're going to get the support of other people who are doing the same thing so you can share the wins. That's worked well. That's worked amazingly well. Now, what else? How did I get there? Well, the things was, I didn't do much. I was always hesitant. I always had this limiting belief that people will judge. Education people don't pay for things because we're just too poor. And that's, to a degree, still this ingrained idea in teachers. However, the ones that we want to work with are the ones who are investing in themselves, their own personal development and growth, to actually basically get themselves ahead, get themselves with people who are like-minded, but also are going to actually benefit them in the future. So the part that's worked well on that is, how did I attract those people? Well, I gave free resources that have taken me quite a while to build into existing Facebook groups and social media marketing areas. That I just then attract people who are keen to learn, keen to innovate and adopt. And then I was able to use email to build some rapport and actually get them through into the community, where then I can actually teach and give coaching and deliver value, rather than just these short snippets of Instagram or YouTube or something like that. So that's what's worked well, and that's what I will be taking forward, giving out free value, free content of what's worked, just so then I can give you the training and implementation and the actual steps for success in person or even online. There's more to reflect on that point. However, I'm going to make this a little bit shorter. So the next phase I want to go into is what didn't work well. Now, remembering I'm focusing on business, but for you, you could be focusing on your personal relationships, your finance, your health. Doesn't really matter. You just pick something that you want to focus on, what's worked well, and now what didn't go so well. Well, for me, it took me 13 months to make my first dollar online. And that was because of these limiting beliefs. I worked full time, I worked 10 to 12 hours a day, and then I came in and had to start doing the Instagram and the TikTok and the YouTube, and then building a course and building a community and building websites while doing my normal job. Now, time allocations weren't the best. There's a phrase that there's a lonely chapter. It always feels lonely when you're starting something out and no one's there with you. And I was definitely feeling that most of the year. Yes, I've had people I can reach out to. However, they weren't doing the same thing I was. They weren't learning a business and weren't learning how to create community, how to create engagement, and how to deliver. Because as educators, we just rock up and teach. Students are already there. We don't actually have to attract the students to our courses to actually deliver, unless you're in certain programs. However, majority of the time, basically you just say, hey, we're offering this subject, come and do my course, and that's it. But regarding business and doing the same thing, there's a heap of costs involved, running ads, free content, organic growth, all those kind of things. So what didn't work well? Well, it was the hesitation to invest money into ads, or hesitation to put out my first lead magnet in those Facebook groups that I knew people were actually engaged in. There was that hesitation, and then that held progress, and I started working on things that didn't actually matter, because writing a plan isn't doing the work. Brainstorming about doing the work isn't doing the work. Creating sort of content is doing the work. You've got to differentiate between what is work and what is not, what is going to get you the outcome and what is just planning or procrastinating or developing some idea. And that's really our second phase. What didn't work? For me, there was many hurdles. Really, having a community and then not onboarding correctly, that was the first problem I encountered. So I didn't have engagement. I didn't have people showing up to our community collaboration calls. And once I fixed that little part of onboarding, getting people through the right process and setting up when they join, that actually made it a lot more successful. So the last part of this first 3 questions is, what do you know now? And what will I take next time? So now I know that I need to give out free content. I need to be advertising, and I need to be just basically creating content consistently through YouTube, because that's where people are finding my connections and actually reaching out. It's not through necessarily Instagram or TikTok. They're fine. However, for me, for education, YouTube is where people go. What else do I know? It is the ability to keep showing up. For nearly half a year, I started journaling. You can see it's basically chockers full of journal. And every day for 60 days, or not 60 days, sorry, 6 months, I basically journaled. And that was basically to clear my head in the morning. I read a bit of information and I've reflected on it, on what's working well and what's not. And it gave me clarity. It gave me some purpose. It also gave me some content to put out there. Now that simple practice is, at the end of the day, what we're really focusing on. Rather than the goals and the aspirations, there's a key point we need to adjust, and that is to focus on the habits that we create rather than the outcome itself. So by creating this journaling habit, I got up, I made a coffee, I sat down, I read a little bit of a book, I then reflected on what's on my mind, and then I went into the day of, here's what I'm grateful for, here's what I'm focusing on, and this is where I'm going next. It gave me clarity of thought and process, and it can help articulate those ideas into written form, and then I could actually visualize it a lot clearer. Now, the idea of just focusing on a goal or creating a goal, I'm going to complete this thing by this time by doing this, that's a great first step. However, we need to make sure that we build the habits in place to actually achieve those goals. So there is 2 aspects. Now we've looked at what's worked well, what hasn't worked well, and what do I sort of know now. And it's all about habit creation rather than outcome driven. Is what are we going to delete? What are the things we're going to just toss out the door because they didn't serve us, they didn't solve our problem, they didn't sort of help? Now for me, like, I obsess over learning. I obsess over it. You can probably see there's 2 degrees on the wall there. And I'm completing an extra course now on accreditation of growth coaching through GCI. And that's another 6-month program while I'm doing 2 other business courses. So next year, it's now about implementation rather than consistent just absorption. And what do I mean? I've been studying consistently. However, study and knowledge is not power, it's potential power. So remember, knowledge is power. That's the quote we always hear, but it's only potential power, because action actually dictates the power that we get. So got all this knowledge now. It's now about implementing it through action, and I'm going to be documenting my process. What am I taking forward? Documenting my process through YouTube, through Instagram, through whatever social media content, email. It doesn't really matter. I will focus on what's working for me, but easy, consistent, predictable. That's what we want. That's how we want to achieve, because at the end of the day, I know what worked when I was documenting, and I haven't released any of it yet. I've got nearly 60 days. Every day for 60 days, I actually recorded a self-reflection on one aspect of my business as I was driving to work, because it was the only time I could really get to think and reflect and actually problem solve before I just got hammered at my normal work. And that was because the normal job of just deputy principal is pretty taxing mentally. So at the end of the day, my ideas, my creativity had pretty much been worn out, been burnt, and I just needed to rest. However, at the beginning of the day, that's when we're most thriving. That's when we get our ideas. That's when we can reflect on what's working, what's not, and where do we go next. Because at the end of the day, we want to focus on those solutions and find where can we build those habits in. And we focus on like James Clear's Atomic Habits. You stack them one thing on a time. Remember that journaling? That was stacked onto making a coffee. The reflection on the drive, the video content, that was stacked onto the drive to work after listening to 10 minutes, 15 minutes of a podcast and doing some priming. Now, if you don't know what priming is, it's just getting your head into the mental space of appreciation and gratitude rather than expectation. Because if we appreciate rather than expect, our whole world will change. So what are we going to delete? That is the question. That is the thing. Now, there's an idea in business that we need to focus on one webinar or one basically idea or model until it works and just keep going. And I get this shiny object syndrome where you see a new idea, oh, I've got to go do that. See a new idea, got to go do that. And it's really a challenge to basically hone it in and go block out all of those things, focus on the one task. Because focus is the hardest skill to actually master in regards to business or growth. So if you can sit down and you can focus, awesome. If you can't, there's a couple of strategies I use. A time block, meaning I'll put it in my diary and I'll chunk out some time. 10 minutes if I think the task is going to take that long. An hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, doesn't matter, but I put a time on it. How much am I blocking out? The next part of that would be really managing that time. I need to cut out a lot. I need to cut out the things that aren't serving. So I need to create content and I need to show up to my community by marketing that community. The things I just need to cut out is planning, over planning. I've got documents upon documents upon documents of planned out actions, but they never eventuate. I think my original business plan, by the time I've gone through everything, was like 96 pages of just brainstorming, which is just insane because realistically, you can't even remember what's at the top of the page, let alone page 96. So it was just about articulation of the thoughts, but there's better ways we can do those things. And the reason I've got to think about this is because there's this phrase I love to live by, and I learnt it in the hardest times of my life, that when we're met with challenge, problems and pain, that our shift in mentality is what is going to drive us in success or not. So the phrase is, what if life is happening for you and not to you? We can always be victim to our circumstance. We can always be victim to what's going on in life, that it's not fair, this shouldn't take this long. But what if that pain, that problem you're dealing with is just the indicator that you are on the right direction, you are on the right path, and life is happening for you, but not to you. You're not a victim, you are just living. Problems and stress are a sign of life. If we don't have them, we're basically dead. You're always feeling stress in some aspect, and we're always having a problem, but our job in education is to solve problems. Our job as people is to solve problems. So, got to think, what if the hopes and the dreams you have are on the other side of that door that you're yet to open? So before we finish off, now if you've been following through, like this is a long video, however, we're going through the framework. What's worked well? What didn't work well? What do we know now? What are we taking into 2025? What are we tossing into 2025? And then the last step of this self-reflection journal is, what's one step I can take now to get me towards my goal of 2025 or the next year? For me, my goals are focused towards business. I want to make more impact in education by helping the people that I know I can. Teachers, technology experts, people who are wanting to learn how to teach, but do it sustainable so they don't burn out in the process. There's too many early career teachers that are crashed and burned. They went and I didn't get to fully mentor them, that's the issue. because they came in, and their expectations were up here, but the reality was like way harder than they ever expected, and they were basically chucked in to sink or swim in the areas before they actually found me. So focusing on building those people up, even if they're established, it is focusing on best practice in leadership. My master's degree is in educational leadership. I'm a deputy principal. I know what I can do in that space, so I'm helping people build sustainable systems, high impact results. That is what we are delivering. But my goal in there is to actually build a community of passionate people who are early adopters, educators, and really wanting to connect with others to actually learn the best practice, learn the skills, but actually help each other out and actually connect, share those wins. And I've got a framework I'm going to be following in the communities I've built, but that is the goal. Build that community up, build it so people are actually getting the support and the structures that they need so they don't burn out. They feel fulfilled, thrive, and passionate about education. Because at the end of the day, as Stephen Bartlett says in The Diary of a CEO, it's well documented that the best way to master a skill is to teach it. So mastery in teaching. So what is the one thing I'm going to be doing? I'm going to be teaching as I build this business. Meaning, the first step, the one small thing I can do is this. I'm going to post videos more consistently. And this is the first one I'm going to put out the door. It's going to be raw, it's going to be rough, I don't care. It's not about gaining views. It's just about improving my ability to articulate my thoughts and actually start visioning and teaching the principles that I've been using in my life. And I do this because at the end of the day, life is happening for us and not to us. I'm not going to be subject to the basically, I can't improve the situation. I know how to improve it, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that through business to actually help the people that I know need it, but also build those connections. As a coach, as a growth coach, as a teacher, as a leader, as someone who's passionate just about learning, that is why I'm mastering or on the path to mastering those skills of business, as well as storytelling, content, all the things that are associated with great leadership. So, wrap it up. 2025 is our year if we can focus on consistent, actionable tasks. It comes down to the action, and that's what the message. This is not for anyone specifically, but more for me. This is a learning journey for myself. This is a self-reflection journal, but I'll put it out online just for the sake of it, because that is what I just told you I was going to do. But if you found any value from it, please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're a teacher in the education space, secondary is where I'm focusing at the moment, mainly in the technology area. So design technology, industrial technology, those kind of courses. But the frameworks I teach are applicable to everything. But I'm focusing on technology educators to begin with, and then we'll build out our community from there. But if that is you and you want to be part of the community that we're building, the next round of basically the doors opening is happening at the start of February. So there's a wait list, it's in the description. You can just click that, put your name in, and then once we're ready, we will basically start getting people through if you're a good fit for the second cohort. We've already had one cohort go through and their results have been fantastic. The feedback is incredible. They're so thrilled. They are honestly, it's just crazy. So I just want to just keep it small to begin with, and we're going to ramp it up. But if you're keen, if you are a technology educator and just keen to learn how to maximize your systems through content delivery, through creating engaging, meaningful learning, as well as just innovative emerging tech like AI, mastering that is what we're focusing on. We applying my principle of steps for success. It's my 3-step process, and you've just gone through aspects of this if you followed along. So that's where I'm going to leave it. Remembering effort equals results. We put it in, we put in the action, we'll get the result eventually, but it just comes down to being consistent. So, have a great year, have a great 2025. I'll see you again soon. Effort equals results. I'm Vaughn Littlejohns. Thanks for watching.